Before I start to provide you with an overview of what DIC's initiatives are in this area, I'm not sure how many of the attendees, and I can see there's quite a lot of people attending this today. So I'm not sure how much you are familiar with DIC. So if you'll indulge me, I'll just give me 1 or 2 minutes to update you on DIC as a company. We were established as a printing company, Kawamura Inc., back in 1908. So we've been operational for 112 years now. And as the name Dai Nippon Ink and Chemicals suggests, we are one, headquartered in Japan, and two, we've diversified from just printing inks to other areas, including pigments, resins, adhesives, packaging films, liquid compounds, PPS, and so many other things. Approximately half of our global revenues are still derived from printing inks, so clearly that's a core business for us. And even some of the other areas that I mentioned, like pigments and resins, although they are in the non-ink division for us, we are obviously using some of those raw materials. And we think that that gives us a competitive advantage, and one of the reasons why we went into the vertical integration route. And just to wrap up on DIC, we now have more than 20,000 people working for DIC across 64 countries, 174 subsidiaries, and we have sales revenues of about $8 billion per year. So, and that makes us the largest printing ink company in the world. Of course, largest doesn't always mean best, so we have to work hard at that to make sure that we maintain that top of the pile. As we know, sustainability has been the quintessential terminology that's been used over the last few years, not just in our, but in many other industries as well. The drive has seen increased participation and investment, and that's evidenced by the most recent exhibitions and trade shows that we would have all attended, most of them online, of course, because of COVID. We believe that chemical companies in the past were expected to provide convenience and at a low cost. But DIC's philosophy today is that whilst we have to do that, it has to be balanced with environmental impact as well. And as one or two of the speakers have mentioned already, DIC recognized that we don't have the solutions for everything here. We have to collaborate, and we work with other like-minded individuals, companies, industries, associations, to get the maximum output and to get the best synergistic effect. A good example of this, I think, is the active participation in CFlex, Circular Economy for Flexible Packaging. It's a European organization, but the guidelines in that they outline, we can use in different parts of the world as well. And for those that aren't familiar with CFlex, I would highly encourage you to look at their website. There's lots of updates that they provide that are very helpful in guiding you through this. As we've already heard, there are different views about what is the best way to achieve this. Is it monopolymer or not? Moving on to what we can do, DIC, to support the brands and converters. I can advise you that we're working with many different global brands on short, medium, and long-term projects to find solutions to the packaging structures that are in place at the moment. And what can we do? What can we help them with to deliver more environmentally friendly and sustainable solutions going forward? Of course, we're always working with customers anyway, and we're always trying to help them reduce cost and look for efficiency gains, which also usually leads into sustainability gains as well. Many of the major projects that we're working on for sustainability drives are covered by NDA or confidentiality agreements. But even if they weren't, I wouldn't share specific details anyway, because that's not how we do business. But we can talk about, some of the general things, and then I can give you some specific examples where I can of what we've been able to do. I'm following 3 AMIT presentations. I feel guilty. My name is Andrew, but as the most recent AMIT said, I mean, what definition of sustainability do you want to use? So I've tried to just make a couple of bullet points on 6 different areas that we look at. First one is reduction of VOCs. As we know, solvent emissions is a major contributor to greenhouse gas effect. So we have to be able to do everything we can to reduce that as much as possible. We have a number of solutions. One is moving to water-based. Water-based has been around for a long time, especially on porous substrates, but on flexible packaging, probably being used on the lower end of packaging. But so many developments have been done, and now we have water-based inks for a whole myriad of substrates and structures, and also for multiple lamination structures as well. So water-based is an option. Obviously, that takes it down to zero VOC if we don't add any solvent in at the print stage. We've also developed a number of solvent-free adhesives. DIC is a major supplier of laminating adhesives worldwide. And there are usually water-based, solvent-based, and solvent-free adhesives. Solvent-free adhesives are 100% solids. Therefore, there are no solvent emissions into the atmosphere. There are many countries, the likes of Australia, obviously, that I'm very familiar with, Australia, New Zealand, and some parts of Europe that are dominated by solvent-free. In Asia, including India, then solvent-based is still the dominant application method. So if most of those adhesives are 70% solids, then we're emitting 30% by volume up into the atmosphere. For many, many applications, we can replace that with solvent-free adhesives. It's the largest growing area in laminating adhesives anyway, but I think that we've got many solutions for you to go. We've also got energy curable solutions, particularly including EB, electron beam. You do need different equipment to be able to do that, but that's available if you want. There are no photo initiators with EB, so migration is not an issue. So I think that that's another solution. So that's about reduction of VOCs. Recyclability. I have to say I do agree with Amit Banga about moving to monomaterial. And C-Flex, I think, have the same view. Amit Shah is also right that there's not one solution. Biodegradable, I'm going to cover in a second as well. So it depends where you are. But I think bang for buck, recyclability is going to yield the biggest return. So the problem with monomaterial is the barrier properties that are required. A number of speakers have already mentioned about multi-polymer, so maybe PET to PE. How do we then go to OPP to OPP and achieve the same barrier level? Because we want the same barrier level, which will provide greater shelf life for the product inside, typically food packaging. So we've got a number of barrier coatings and barrier adhesives in our portfolio that can help to reduce those OTRs to give us the desired levels that we need. We've also got deseamable solutions that are applied during the printing process for labels for PET bottles. Again, I think Amit Banga mentioned that before. Very high recyclability rate in India, which is good. It's not necessarily everywhere else. And part of the problem is have an easy removal of labels on those PET bottles. So we also have a solution for that. Number 3 is carbon neutral. So the ability to be able to use renewable material or biomass material, as it's sometimes referred to. So these are using materials that are typically from plant or vegetable, etc., rather than using petrochemical derivatives. And DIC has invested a lot of time and research into this, and we've got a whole selection of biomass approved and certified materials that we can use. And these are maybe quite surprising for a number of people. They include materials for resins, even solvent, waxes, and additives. As an example, in Australia, we are using ethanol, which is produced from the sugar cane. So it's not produced from the oil process, which is a big advantage. And it's a large part of our formulations in Australia. Then moving on to biodegradable. So DIC has a number of ink series that are approved for this application by TUV in Austria. For those that are involved in biodegradable, they'll be familiar with this company, and they provide the global OK certification. So we've got a number of ink series that are approved for this. Obviously, you need to use biodegradable film as well. And there are also strict rules on pigment selection and also percentage coverage on the job. But again, DIC's got big experience in that, and we can help you. And the last two categories I've grouped together, lightweight and extended shelf life, which again, Amit Shah just mentioned before as well. So DIC can enhance the barrier properties of packages with coatings or adhesives, as I mentioned before. And we can also simplify structures, maybe potentially going from triplex to duplex, and even duplex to duplex with better barrier resistance. And that's some of the things that we've achieved already. Other things that are in practice, we have PE replacement coatings. We have this for the likes of the fast food industry in particular. If you think about going into a major fast food chain now and you get a burger and a Coca-Cola, the drink comes in a paper cup, but inside the paper cup, it has polyethylene inside to ensure that there's no leakage. And also you can seal so you can form the cup. We have water-based coatings now available that will do the functionality of PE, and it is widely being used, and it's a growing part of our business. There are also on some of the cups PE on the outside of the cup. So if we replace both of those with water-based coatings, it then renders the paper to be recyclable as well. And it's the same for fast food in terms of burger clamshells or even the outer wraps. Depending on which country you're in, they are typically PE coated paper or they're wax coated. Either of those are not recyclable. So with our water-based coatings, they are. They're also direct food contact, so there is no issue there. We've also moved frozen ice cream structures from film to paper recently. We've been using biomass, as I mentioned before, particularly in water-based, but even in solvent-based. So this is available using, naturally occurring materials. And in Japan, we've also seen a move for particular application to biomass material for solvent-based inks. We've also got a de-inking solution for the recycle station, so that's a help. And you may have seen the Kit Kat, Nestle Kit Kat, again from Japan, where the tertiary packaging, the outer packaging is done with paper now. Previously, it was with film. So again, that is obviously going to be recyclable. The inner contents are still in film, but that's going to be stage 2. DIC also has biomass polyethylene in its portfolio. We actually make our own film. So that also reduces CO2 emissions as well. We have energy curing coatings, which use up to 35% recyclable PET inside the coating. So again, that's a patented product for us. We've also introduced UV LED technology, so customers use lower energies as they go forward. And at a more local level, we have toluene-free inks. Toluene is still a very commonly used solvent in India, but there are alternatives to this which are widely available that are less harmful to people and to the environment. So in summary, I'd just like to make some comments about the Indian packaging market overall. The Indian packaging market, we estimate, is valued at about $50 billion in 2019. And it's expected to reach almost $260 billion by 2026. It's only 5 years from now. And that gives a compound growth rate of 27% per annum. Food and beverage and pharmaceutical are the fastest growing segments in the Indian packaging industry. And it's expected to further fuel the demand for plastic packaging. Massive investments are already being made in food processing, personal care, pharmaceuticals, and end user industries. And it's creating scope for expansion of the packaging market. These core business segments that I just mentioned are covered by many of global brands that are also committed to be using packaging that will be reused, recyclable, or compostable by 2025. And they've made those commitments through different industry associations or foundations like the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Therefore, we see that a large increase in packaging requirement, as I mentioned before, coupled with a sustainability drive from the brand owners, along with consumer demand. So this is about the next generation, my kids and people that are younger than that. They want to be using sustainable packaging. They don't want to see landfills. They don't want to see marine pollution. So, you know, I think both of those gives us an excellent opportunity for any innovative companies to capitalize on this. India is key to DIC success in the AP region, and it's one of our core countries, particularly with the growth potential that I mentioned before. As recognition of this, we have a regional technical center based there with 40 scientists and technicians working for India and the region, and in some product ranges for the globe. Our technical leadership often works with regulators in India to help them identify suitable norms for more safe and sustainable packaging. We constantly engage with customers, not only to offer sustainable solutions, but also work with them and brand owners to reduce their operating costs and energy consumption. DIC itself continues to demonstrate lower carbon emissions and waste reduction, despite our growing business in India. And I have to say, this is replicated within the DIC group. DIC is recognized in environmental, social, and government investment indices, such as the FTSE4Good or the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, and the latter we've been a member for 6 years running. So in closing, I'd just like to say we see a great future for India. We think it's a land of many opportunities, and where we're working to bring new age technology and technical services to build a more sustainable packaging ecosystem. We really believe that we are best placed to help you achieve your sustainability goals, whatever they are. And as we mentioned before, there are many and there are varied. And we are the only global ink company that's offering inks, adhesives, barrier coatings, adhesives, etc. I think our critical mass and our geographical reach can help you deliver it. DIC also has existing global experiences in transitioning businesses to sustainable models. So there's no point reinventing the wheel. Hopefully you can use us and use our learnings from previous to expedite your goals. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you.